It's said that life is a journey best traveled with friends.
Along the way are adventures and misadventures. But if you're Ms. Mel's friend, you'll find some Ms. adventures.
Join Ms. Mel for misadventures with friends and explore the paths of friendship.
Welcome to you. I'm your hostess, Ms. Mel, and today on Misadventures with Friends, I'll be visiting with my friend, David. Hi, David.
Hello, hello.
Glad to have David here with us today. David is a special person in my life. Not only is he a friend, but he's also my pastor of the church that we've been attending for a while, but I've known David for a long, long time and known his wife even longer. I'm scared to think how far back Kim and I go.
Yeah.
Preschool kind of thing. That's a long time. But we're going to chat a little bit about friends and friendship and get some insight from David's unique perspective and position as a pastor of a community, and having grown up around this community and gone to school in this community, you're very aware of all the ins and outs and the goings on. But let's just go with a basic start of what is your idea, David, of friendship?
Ooh. Well, there's a lot of ways. I think the big thing for me, at least from what I've seen in my life, would be that commitment. A lot of times you have friends and you have common interests and you have things that kind of initially bring you together and give you that camaraderie. But the ones that come to my mind are the ones that stay committed to that, because to me, true friendship is a two-way street. I know with me, there's times I have a lot of time, or not a lot, but I have more time for personal friends, and then there's times when I have less time. So to me, it's the friends who hang in there with me when I'm not around them as much. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But commit, much like a marriage, you just hang in there with people, and there's times you can do a lot of stuff together, and there's times where you're busy or life gets busy and you don't see each other as much. I've got a friend down in Asheville, and he and I have been friends. We served together at a church, but we may not talk for 2 months. But when we talk, it's the same as if we were still working together almost. It's amazing. And those kind of friends are rare.
Yes, that is a rarity. Over the years in your career path, I'm sure you've encountered a whole lot of different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And along our journey and our pathways on friendship, we run into a lot of people that we wouldn't expect to end up being friends with. Do you have any kind of special memory on a friendship that was totally unexpected?
Yeah.
Totally unpredictable? Did you share with us?
I'll try and make it short. I have struggled with panic attacks through the years, and when it first hit, I was a student at Lander, and back then nobody knew what a panic attack was. I didn't know what a panic attack was, and I had just become a Christian, so I had kind of bowed out of the college life scene, and I had been on the soccer team at Lander and everything. So I found myself in no man's land, and weren't around a lot of guys and people that I was around, and ended up becoming friends with a guy named Philip. And he and I were as different as night and day. He would not have picked me to hang out with. I would not have picked him to hang out with, but we had come to know each other through some mutual friends, and then ended up becoming roommates. And during that period of time, I would have to say that's the first one that pops in my mind. And I don't mean that neither one of us would have been drawn to the other one. Our likes, our from the outside looking in, no one would have thought that we would become friends. And he became a close friend through one of the most difficult times I've ever been through in my life, and was just huge. But he always comes to mind because that was the one friend that I had that when I look back on it, I was like, wow. It just showed me that you don't have, all the boxes don't have to be checked in terms of, they like this and I like that, and they do this and I do this. I mean, we were as different as night and day, but became extremely close friends, especially during that time. It was just an amazing relationship. And looking back on it, I think some of the quintessential type friends that I had in the past wouldn't have walked as well during that time with me, Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, that's another connection for you and I, David,
Well,
because
I thought so.
Philip, and I have known Philip since we were in elementary school. So
He is a unique
I have
guy.
not talked
Love
with him in quite a while, so maybe I need
I
to,
actually saw him
need to
recently.
sit down and have a chat with he
Yeah.
and I know his wife as well, so let's sit down and chat with them because that's a long time ago. Wow.
Yeah, we won't go there.
No, let's not. Speaking of going there and old friends, new friends, old friends, young friends, what or how do you approach having friendships of different ages? What is when people maybe come up to you, maybe one of our youth here in the church, and I'm like, I've got all these friends that are my age. I'm getting ready to go off to college, and I want to stay connected with some of the older people, but do I call them friends?
Yeah. Well, there again, I think the career that I'm in lends itself, or that's more available, I think, than for a lot of people. Having both. All the guys on staff are, the oldest is what, 20 years younger than me? More than 20 years younger than me. That's not even fun to say. And then just recently, I had a young guy who is contemplating marriage, and he's done some stuff here at the church, and he just wanted to get together and talk through that, and that wasn't like on a counseling level because I know this guy, and it's so it is a friendship level, and I think because of my job, I do have the opportunity for that, and I do look at them as friends, even like with the staff. I mean, there's one of them is 30 years younger than me, and we do have that work relationship, but then we also have a friendship out of it, and I like it because, well, as you get older, the reason why I think some people don't have especially older people, having the younger friends, number one, they're just not around them, and for some people, there's little they can do about that. I think secondly, there can be this big gap. Well, we sit in staff meeting and these guys start talking, and it's like they're in another language and they're laughing, and I'm kind of smiling because I'm laughing at them laughing, but I don't have a clue what they're talking about. I'm not up on what they're talking about. I don't even care about what they're talking about sometimes at some point, but I do know that sometimes that gap of what younger people are in and aware of gets further and further, and it does become harder, I think, and you really have to work at it. And it is nice when you do have a commonality, i.e. with these guys, it's the job, or as a pastor, if people are a Christian and involved in church, there's a commonality. So, but I do know this. I like to kind of hang in there a little bit longer because I'm never going to be where they're at again. But it helps to be aware of where they're at, right, and how they're thinking.
Right.
They think a lot differently
Mhm.
then, and I thought differently than my parents.
Well, that's when we were growing up. They called it the generation gap, and there's lots of gaps there
There are,
of
and-
many generations.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking with my children. If you were to sit and talk with my children and what they were interested in and what their likes and dislikes are, they would definitely have their fingers in what's going on now and know what's
Mhm.
going on now. But we have tried to raise our kids with knowing what we were interested in,
Yeah.
what their grandparents were interested in. So our kids will, one of them in particular, loves 40s and 50s and 60s music.
Yeah.
That's where he goes back to, and another one is, she turned on her playlist in her truck the other day and it was all 70s
Oh,
music.
yeah.
And I was like, God, you're taking me back to high school with some of this
I
stuff
know.
in the 70s and early 80s. So letting our kids know that not just what we were into when we were their age or younger, but how we thought like they did about
Mhm.
our time,
Mhm.
that this was the only time. But you got to look beyond that.
Yeah.
We've tried to raise them to look behind and ahead
Yeah, you're right.
with people that they encounter. Because if you think about it, for 17, 18 years of your life, you're with your age group
Mhm.
through school. It's age group. You might know the kids a grade ahead. You might know the kids a grade behind. But then you go off to college and you've got an age group that spans 4 or 5 years
Mhm.
of friendships. Suddenly you're out there in the big wide world and there are people of all ages.
Yeah.
And you're spending the rest of your life as an adult. That's what bothers me when people say, well, high school was the greatest time of my life. I'd love to go back there. I said, no.
Now, May,
Let's grow up beyond that. You've got your whole life to be an adult and develop friendships that span so many years. I mean, you're almost cutting yourself off from wonderful relationships and experiences by only looking at your generation.
no, I agree.
It's what I have learned from younger friends and older friends. I was talking the other day, my friends range in age from 20s to 80s.
Mhm.
And what a wonderful thing to hold on to, that sort of legacy, which brings around the other idea of, okay, are they all gals? No, I have friends that are male. It puts us in an interesting situation, particularly from a biblical perspective, when we look at friendships that are with the opposite sex.
Mhm.
Our world has convoluted
Yeah.
that whole idea of who you can be friends with.
Mhm.
What if you were counseling someone on a relationship or that wanted to develop relationships with someone of the opposite sex? What would be a good level ground to guide them on?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Of course, if you're a young man or a young woman who is dating, or in a dating relationship, not just dating,
Mhm.
having a significant other is a big variable on what your friendships with the opposite sex look like, because their comfortableness with that, or their view of it is going to impact yours.
Right.
Some people are more, I think that was something that was helpful for Kim and I, just in the sense of, in ministry, I'm talking to men and women. I'm talking to younger women. I'm talking to older men, older women, all over the map, really. Now, I have my own personal guidelines on that that I came up with. Of course, with counseling and things like that, you have to be very careful. But in a friendship, more of a friendship level, though, I think Kim and I have always realized that in our role, on a given Sunday, she can be talking to a gentleman on one end of the lobby, and I can be talking to a female on the other end of the lobby. and there has to be that trust and that understanding that you can have friends. I think you can go too far on either side of this one.
Right.
I think you can
Right.
think it doesn't matter, and then I think you can be overprotective and jealousy and all those things can kind of hurt it also. So, but yet I think of a friend of ours that goes here to this church. I've known her since college. She dated the RA in my dorm, and a guy named Ben. I don't remember his last name, but that's how long I've known her. We sang on the worship team together. I mean, there's a long-term Betsy, Brian's wife. There are several Monica. I mean, I could go on and on. People that I have been around of the opposite sex that I am friends with, that I can have conversations with on a more personal level, and not just, hey, what are y'all doing, this weekend or whatever. But I think you always have to be guarded. I think it's always a slippery slope, but at the same time, I think that, well, in a marriage, sometimes I need a female perspective, and sometimes you get that from other females that help you in the marriage situation. Other men sometimes are not always, if I'm trying to figure my wife out, other men aren't, they're not
the most reliable resource on that. Yes.
No.
You're listening to Misadventures with Friends.
So has your perspective on friendships changed at different stages in life?
I think that's the other, I was reading through these questions and looking at it. There's a lot of great questions here. I think for me, and there again, some of this has to, and I'd say everybody can relate to this to a certain extent. With my job, I am friends, I'm using quotes here, with a lot of people. But I've had to learn that a lot of those friendships were based on my position, not on me in other words, were I not the pastor, I don't know that we would have been friends. Mm-hmm. And that used to bother me because, it would be like, well, if you work with somebody and you see them 8 hours a day, every day, you're going to be some type of friend. You're going to have a work relationship. But I think most of us have worked with people that we worked well with them, and there was a friendship. But outside, if we did not work with them, we're not calling them to go to coffee. So I think it's wise to. That's not negative. That's not wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that I didn't know when I was younger, though, and so when someone no longer came to the church, or they moved, or there was some type of separation, then I would take it really personal. Like, did I do something wrong, or did I, why are we not still friends? And there are levels of friendship, and I think that's the thing that helped me the most, is that I'm not going to be great friends with everybody that I'm in, that I interact with here all the time. I couldn't anyway. And they have their own life, and they have family and friends and stuff and work. And so I've just kind of found out, Brian Henry comes to mind. Just, he and I met back when he was in his first year of residency. And we just kind of made a commitment to each other. And that commitment has spanned almost 37 years now. And we haven't always been around each other a lot. There's been different times, different things have happened, and we weren't around each other as much. And there have been other times we were around each other a great deal. But it does change. Like, now he's retired. Okay, well, he's living a different life than I am.
That dirty dog. Why did he go do something like that?
But he is, but they've got more time to travel now, which they didn't do before,
right?
And they've got grandkids, and they live out at the lake, so there's a greater distance. And
his wife Betsy is a friend of mine, and,
exactly.
And I live vicariously through her adventures.
Yeah, we all look at the fun trips they're taking, but I'm happy for them. And it's like I'm happy that because for years I saw him work and spend most of his time developing the practice and all of that. And so now they're at a different stage, and in some ways that means he'll what I always love about him is he'll text me for lunch. And I think in my role sometimes people can perceive I'm busy, and so they don't text. And I tell people all the time, well, just give me a text. I may be open that day or whatever. And because I'm moving around to different people, Brian's always been that great example of a guy that stays committed and goes, hey, you busy? I'm going to be in town. And 90% of the time when he texts me, we go have lunch. I'm not busy, or I'll go, hey, I can't today, but what about tomorrow? So that right there has been huge for me, because I'm kind of a task-oriented, get things done, and I've always got a list. And not that other people aren't getting things done, is probably the negative side to who I am. And someone like Brian, who's, hey, let's go get lunch, and he'll always, usually at some point, he goes, hey, how's David Harrell the person, not the pastor,
Right.
Not your job, not anything else. He always asks that question.
And that exemplifies the depth of friendship,
Yeah.
where you've got a friend that's more interested in you
Right.
personally instead of your role in life,
Right.
your career path, your even role as a mom.
Yeah.
If somebody were to ask me, well, how are you doing how's your relationship with the kids? How's your mom? Well, I'm going to give them the mom answer.
Right.
Same thing with how's your marriage going and things like. But it's something Denise and I were talking about. With one of the questions she likes to ask people is, how's your heart?
Mm-hmm.
How's your heart? How's your focus on life right now?
Mm-hmm.
And good friends can do that, and the best friends are the ones that can sit there and listen to you spiel out everything.
Yep.
And not judge you on it, but give you an opportunity to what we call venting. Here's my air quotes. Venting sometimes is just the necessity for sharing.
Yeah. Oh, if you don't have the person that you can vent and be real with, and a lot of times, Kim and I will, but then there's some things I don't vent to Kim about, and some things she doesn't vent to me about, that you need those other people to kind of just say, this is where I'm at. May not be right even, but this is where I'm at. Yeah.
You've been presenting the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure how much longer you're going to go with it, a series of messages on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came and heard, I think I was working in nursery the first Sunday you presented, and then the next Sunday I came in and I went, God, man, Ray's just stepping all over my podcast idea here with friendship, and I got to step back from that and think about it and how it all ties in. It does boil down to relationships. Yeah. And relationships can be friendships. Relationships can be romantic relationships. Relationships can be just, I'm going to tolerate you to get through this season or this task or this purpose that we have that our paths have crossed. Right. Relationships that develop into friendships are so unique. And we do have seasons of life, but we also have in those seasons short-term relationships. We love our long-term relationships, but we have our friendships, but those short-term friendships are just as rewarding. Yeah. When they come about. What has impacted David the most in developing this series on relationships? What have you learned from it? Anytime you are presenting a message to people, you learn something about that topic that you really didn't know. You thought you knew it all sometimes, and then you're like, wow, I dig a little deeper. I found out more about the topic, find out more about myself. What have you gleaned from this?
I think that definitely dealt with it the first week, and we'll be going this week, and then we're going to take a break from it for about 4 weeks, and then we're going to come back to it because just so that people kind of can tune you out after about 4 weeks. I think that not approaching. Sometimes we can be so aware of what we need in life, or what we even need from another person or in a friendship, that we can dial in on finding that person or being around the person that we know is like that with us. And I think, to your point, we miss some of those short-term relationships that could actually do as much as that long-term one. Because the good thing about long-term relationships is people know you. The bad thing is they know you well enough to not ask certain questions. And I think that newer relationships, people will talk about things that maybe you don't want to talk about, that you need to talk about. That's something I've just seen, that new relationships, those people don't know the boundaries. Mm-hmm. And sometimes boundaries are good, and then sometimes boundaries that we've set up in relationships actually aren't. And it may not be that we need to talk with them with that long-term friend, but we do need to talk about them, and we do need to kind of go into that area. So for me, I think that stop, and this isn't a new thing, this is just something anytime I teach on relationships that I need to be reminded, is stop going at them or towards them in such a self-serving manner, in that I want to make sure this person checks off all my boxes, like I was talking about earlier. And I actually see relationships as a gift that are to be stewarded. Like, we have abilities, we have material things, we have stuff that God gives us, and our job is to steward them. Well, relationships are a gift that need to be stewarded. And whether it's, okay, this person is this kind of relationship, and you know, we don't see each other a lot, but there's still merit to what we have. And I think valuing that and then stewarding that in the sense of it's a gift, and that person is a gift, but not coming at it from simply, this is what I need out of a relationship, and if I don't get all of that, then this is not a relationship I'm going to pursue. I think it's just hope. And there again, I'm thankful for this job, because I have to do that a lot more than I want to, because I'm like anybody. I want to be around the easy person. I want to be around the person that we just gel and we get along, and it's like relaxing. When I got lunch with Brian, it's not, I'm not going to be counseling. We're just going to be having lunch together. But yet there are still other relationships that are just as meaningful in their own way. And if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have that. I mentioned the name, there's a fairly new guy here, and he's an older gentleman, and loves to study the Bible. And I don't know him that well yet. And I don't know that we'll ever be like me and Brian. And then there's another guy that's fairly new. And so you begin to see the value of those people. They may not become that long, fast friend, but I do want to be their friend, because does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They've just got a perspective or something that I'd like to hear about.
Right. I think the word of caution to someone younger that may be listening to this is those short-term friendships are advantageous.
Yeah.
But not to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And
well, Philip and I, we were friends during that time. Then when I graduated, I moved to Atlanta. Of course, back then we didn't have email and everything.
Thank goodness. No social media. Oh, thank goodness.
And two guys and back then it cost long distance, to call. So we were both single and poor, so we really, I was trying to think, didn't really communicate that much. So there was a period of about 3 years to where it was a super close friendship, and then it wasn't. But I saw him recently at a funeral of a mutual mentor of both of ours. You know, we talked just like we'd seen each other last week.
Right.
So
those kind of friendships are so much fun.
they are.
Yeah, I went down to the camp that I worked with for so many years, and I go every year to check upon them, see if they're doing things right.
Yeah, of course.
And they are. They're doing things great. They continued that legacy, and that's a pleasure.
Because you guys had quite the group that put that.
Oh
camp
yeah, and we're still a close group.
Yeah.
Even though we are all at some strange seasons of life right now with our kids and with our parents, and but just being able to go down to camp and meet with these gals that I see once a year, and know that we're friends, and we can connect. That's a great thing. I was thinking about my high school graduating class came to mind this morning, and I thought, well, I need to get in touch with some of those folks and chat with them about friendship, even though we weren't close.
Yeah.
And none of them were my besties when we were in school together. We had such a small group, there were only 15 of us in the graduating class, that we were friends. Mm-hmm. And we have stayed in touch with each other for many years. And I know that, I probably can send off a email to some of them and say, hey, it's time for us to all get together again. We need to all catch up again. But yeah, oh gosh, friendship is just such a gift.
It is.
It's a gift. And whenever I hear someone say, well, I don't have any friends, I'm like, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Let's reevaluate where you're coming from with that. We're talking right now, so maybe we have a friendship. So,
well, don't you think, though, that some people think when they look at people, because of my position, a lot of people will look at me, oh, David, you've got a lot of friends. It's work. Mm-hmm. The verse in the Bible that says, he who would have friends must first show himself friendly. Actually, if you look at that, it's not say be friendly and you'll have friends. It's actually, because I was going to use it one time to prove a point. It didn't prove my point. But when you look at it, it says, no, if you're going to have to be friendly to have friends. It's not saying be friends and you'll have friends. It's like, no, if you've got friends, it's going to keep you busy. And I think that people don't realize that to be a friend, it's inconvenient. It is a commitment that you're making to that person, and it doesn't just, friends move. We had a couple that is coming to the church now that I've known for many years. They've just started coming to the church, and in the last month or two, and then they had to move, and they moved on a Saturday, and it was hot that day, and you go help them move. It's not. I think sometimes people think, oh, people just come and line up to be your friend. Well, I may meet a lot of people, but I don't have people that are lined up to be my friend. I have to make that, like you said, you got to send that email and say, hey, let's get together, or hey, let's have coffee. Extend that. If you're going to have friends, it's going to take effort. Don't think that everyone that has friends, that it's just that everyone's always coming to them. You have to be that one. Like every once in a while, I gotta reach out to Brian. Hey, let's go have coffee. It's a two-way street.
That great word, intentionality.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge.
You have to be intentional. You have to make a step.
And those people are over there wondering, that whoever it is you contact, they're excited because somebody actually initiated with them.
Yeah. It's like sending out a text and wondering if anybody read it. A group text. You have to be intentional to say, okay, I got it. Even if it's just okay, I deal with that with my core friend group. It's like, y'all just please let me know you got the text. Just say, okay,
Yeah.
or check mark or something like
Yeah.
that. Just be intentional with your with your relationships and
Yeah.
developing. You mentioned commitment. Commitment is the key. Intentionality and commitment are such strong words when it comes to friendships.
Mm-hmm.
I think we started with commitment, so we'll end with commitment.
Yeah.
Want to say thank you, David,
No, thank you.
for being here with us and sharing with us and chatting today about friendship and sharing another Ms. Adventure with me. We say thank you to friends, old and new, for journeying with us. Give us a thumbs up and become our friend on Facebook, Instagram. If you'd like to know more about David's message on relationships, you can send me a private message or visit our Facebook page, DM me through that, and we'll get you that information so you can hear it, learn from it, glean from it. Now we want you to go out there and make a friend and be a friend. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
See ya.
When the world is so complicated, the simple gift of friendship is within all of our hands. Maria Shriver.
Misadventures with Friends is a production of Depot Street Studios and Rocket 88 Broadcasting. Music is from Storyblocks.com.